The Bayou Dragons Podcast would like to thank Floyd Fabrication for sponsoring this podcast. Listen, guys, if you're starting a business, you want to get some prints, you want to get some hats, you want to get some canvases, whatever your need is, Floyd Fabrication's got you covered. Ben Floyd down there in Florida is a real great guy, a great friend of the podcast. He has taken care of us in every regard possible. If you guys want quality prints, you want quality shirts, you want quality hats, Floyd Fabrication's got you covered. Check him out on Instagram. Check him out on Facebook. That's Floyd Fabrication. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Bayou Dragons Podcast. You got Mr. Matthew McCall hosting for you guys today, joined by my brother, Mitchell. Unfortunately, P. May couldn't make it this evening. He, I don't know what he's doing. I think he's just
Porter's,
off.
We're doing a boat show, or we're doing the boat show up in Houston. Porter's running the booth up there, so he's not here today, but we do have a good friend joining us today, Colton Castilaw, also known as CC Duck Call. Colton, how you doing today?
Oh, pretty good. How about y'all?
Shit, can't complain.
Man, I'm doing fantastic. Sitting here on the couch with you guys, about to put in a nice pinch of Copenhagen, cold beer in hand, man.
Always cold beer in hand. But we wanted to have Colton on, and we took a trip with Colton in November up north and shot a bunch of birds, had a blast. And I said, Colton, man, we're going to have you on the podcast, talk about hunting and whatever the hell else we're going to get into. But, Colton, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into doing these trips that you do, because I know you take multiple every year.
Yeah, I started doing these trips probably 4 or 5 years ago, but just like anybody else, Southeast Texas, I started, my dad took me hunting around here. We'd go shoot wood ducks or whatever in the marsh. Then once I started getting my upper teens, I started getting into the refuges, hunted J.D. Murphys all my life. I mean, we've killed so many birds out of J.D. Murphys, it ain't even funny. And it just got to the point where there's just so many people hunting, so much competition, it just wasn't worth it anymore.
That ain't no lie, man. That especially J.D. Murphys, you drive by, and I think we've talked about it on here before. You drive by
probably 100 times we've talked about that, man. That's a hot
These
topic. Guys
are waiting in line, several days before the hunt, and that's just crazy, man.
Yeah, there'll be people 2 or 3 days before the day they hunt, just waiting in line. Like there's just no way. There's no way to compete with that.
No,
and
we have jobs.
Yeah, So I got with a buddy of mine, Cole Townsend and Calvin Jornson. They kind of showed me the route. I went up hunting with them in Amarillo. They guide at the time they were guiding for goose reapers, which now they're at Cadillac Creek Outfitters, but kind of learned from them. They kind of showed me the routes, what to do. So me and a couple buddies, me and 3 buddies, well, 2 of them not so much buddies anymore, but we decided, look, we're going to take a trip. We're going to go up north. We're going to try it. We're going to try it for ourselves. So we did. We got on the road. We drove 23 hours. Went to North Dakota. It's the first place I ever went. Went in November. It was cold. Everything was froze. So we kind of based our trip off the river. Kind of like we did when we went. Based it off the river. And we went up there not knowing anything about anything. No farmers. We didn't know nothing. We just got on the road and went. And got up there, booked our hotel and everything, and got on the road, started scouting. Next thing I know, it just the birds were there, and they were just all over the river, which all the pond stuff were froze, so they were just all roosting on the river. So it really wasn't that hard to go find birds. And then the first matter of fact, first farmer I ever talked to was actually an old lady. And she owned a buffalo farm. She raised a bunch of buffalo up there. And one of the nicest old ladies up there. And I asked her, of course, told me a little spiel. I'm from Texas, come up here to shoot some geese and stuff. And she let me hunt her property. And that's actually the first goose hunt I've ever made on my own, was in a little wheat field. And that next morning, we killed our 4 man Canadas, and then from there, I was just hooked.
Yeah.
Just went from there.
Yeah, that was I felt the same way, dude. It was like, having it's like, man, hunting down here, it just wears on you so much. Having to put, it physically, mentally, being out there, and
it does, man.
It just beats you up, man. And it's like that first morning of, hey, getting exclusive permission to go and hunt birds. I think the first morning we hunted, we didn't get out there until a little bit later. We kind of figured out the birds were, flying in a little bit later. And so we're like, man, let's go get breakfast first, man. We got out of bed. We went and had breakfast, went and brushed up and jumped in the blinds. And I was like, holy crap, man, this is nice.
Yeah.
This is the way to do it.
I ain't going to lie. I was kind of worried on this trip. me and Porter and me and Cole, we was talking before the trip because I knew how cold it was going to be. I knew it was going to be in the negatives.
It was cold as shit.
It was
a lot of
extremely
snow.
cold.
I was honestly a little worried. I didn't know what the birds were going to do because I've never hunted in temps like that. I mean, I've hunted in 20s and teens and stuff all the time up there, but I've never hunted in negatives. So
we were sitting at average temp for the morning hunt was single digits to negatives and snow and just
a lot of
ice
wind.
and
Wind was a killer on a couple of those days.
It was crazy conditions.
Yeah, and going up there, once we got up there, I knew how cold it was. I knew the birds were going to fly later, but hell, we didn't see the first bird at 11:30. Mm-hmm. I was getting worried for a while. I said, man, I don't know, maybe they're not here.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, 10:30, 11 o'clock, I don't know what time it was, but they just come out of nowhere, and they just kept coming, and they flew all evening. I don't know how many birds we've seen that evening, but it was a lot.
Mainly, we're talking about Canada geese. While we were up there, we hunted mainly Canadas, and we did get to shoot some mallards, but man, it's just those birds are in those conditions. They knew where they wanted to go and they knew where they wanted to be. And sometimes you can't get permission to hunt where they're going to be. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, that snow up there makes them dumb too. They get off the river and they're so hungry they just come straight to them fields and they want to get in that snow and feed. And the birds up there are just so dumb. The snow makes them dumb from what I've seen. Which that's actually the first time I ever hunted in snow. But just over the 4 or 5 years of me hunting when it's not snowed, them birds were just dumb.
I'd like to hunt when the temperatures are. It was badass hunting in those conditions. Don't get me wrong; it was cold as fuck. I'd like to hunt in a little, warmer conditions. I'm sure it would be a little more pleasant, but it was still it was the best hunting trip I've ever been on, hands down. Yeah. But one thing I noticed, this was my first trip to travel and hunt birds in different areas. I've hunted coastal marsh. I've hunted, the bayou. I've hunted rice fields, stuff around here, but I've never got to hunt the dry field scenario. And one thing I noticed, man, when we were putting out those spreads, we were running dive bomb silhouettes. That's all we ran the whole time. And, man, you knew exactly how to orchestrate those spreads depending on the wind direction, the conditions. How did you learn how to set those spreads as good as you do, because them birds were falling right in exactly where you wanted them to?
Yeah, which, like I said, a lot of that, the dry field stuff, like I said, Cole taught me a lot about it, what to look for. But just as a typical duck hunter, the birds are going to work into the wind. So you always want to make your kill pocket right out in front of you. Depend on the wind, depend on your hide too. A lot of times, you got to go off of how your hide, because sometimes you can't shoot them in the face. Sometimes the way your hide's set up, you got to shoot them in the side or whatever you got to do. You never really want to shoot them in the butt, but sometimes you might have to the way you set up. Yeah. But I always like the best condition. You want to set it. I like to set a little OU, and they down or the wind blowing from your back to them, and they come straight to you. That's the best way possible.
And that's kind of the same thing that we do down here in the marsh, hunting over water. We've always. I feel like we run the same damn spread every time we hunt. We try to set up with the wind to our back. We throw a group to the left, a group to the right, little pocket of teal, and make that landing zone, right in the middle. That's ideal, I guess, for dry field as well. You want to make that landing zone for them right there in the middle.
Yeah, and a lot of times while you're scouting, if you'll just pay attention to the birds and see how they're kind of set up. Like once we got to up to Canada this year, I noticed the birds in that snow. They were just in big wads. It wasn't like they were spread out. They wanted to be real close to each other feeding. And that's kind of how I based our spread. I'd put it real close and just spread it just a little bit out. That way they have a little landing zone. But not all of our birds, different the single stuff. They wanted right where the thick wad of decoys was.
No doubt.
I think it'd be really tough to actually pattern out the way that they are when they're in the field, because if you're looking at them from ground level, you're just going to see a big mass of birds, right, that goes from left to right and it's thick, all the way back. And like we did, we tried to scout them a little bit with drones, and those birds were very, very spooky. I've seen some really cool duck videos of drone footage, and I'm thinking, how in the world do they get so close to these birds? And I guess the ducks are a lot different, because these geese, man, you'd cross a property line 300 yards away, and they were alert, and they knew it, and they would just spook every time. We tried it on a couple of smaller little, pods feeding in fields, and, man, it was like they just knew instantly. And so it's, you never know, and I don't think it's too important that you get extremely technical, right? That's the same way I feel about throwing my spread out in the marsh. You want that pocket, you want to set them up to come in right out in front of you. I just think, throwing that pocket and kind of mixing it up here and there, throwing a couple pods out to the left and the right, just make it look ducky,
Yeah.
And for geese, I think I'd say it's the same way. Just like you were saying though, depending on the weather, kind of your density, whether you're going to spread it out or you're going to kind of pack it in.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of times, like in North Dakota, when it's hot weather. I've noticed sometimes them birds would be all over the field. There'll just be one here, one there. There might be 2,000 birds, but they're going to take up the entire field. I mean, I've seen them spread out like that before, and I've seen a lot of videos of people running spreads. They'll run their decoys 200-300 yards away from them, which I've never personally done that, but I've seen it before like that.
I have seen where it kind of thins out the farther you get away, right, and then it gets denser the closer to the hide. But one thing I did notice hunting geese was that a lot of those feeds that we were finding were in the smack dab in the middle of the field. Yep. They were as far from any edge of that field as they could possibly get, right there in the middle, and they'd start in the middle and eat their way out. Yeah. And it was, I mean, to me, that says, they want to have as much vision around them as possible for those sentries to be able to watch the rest of the feed.
Yeah, I think a lot of times they land out there because they're watching for predators and stuff. Right. While they're feeding and stuff, I think they land out in the middle because they feel safe. They feel safe out in the middle and not around them levees and stuff. They feel protected out in the middle and stuff.
It was crazy to me the amount of tracks, waterfowl tracks that we saw, particularly in that cornfield we hunted where we shot the 6-man of honkers and mallards. Just the amount you go out there, we're setting up, and there's just tracks, man. You talk about other game trails, other game tracks. These are just straight goose tracks all over this field. We're like, and they're here, green shit, all throughout the field, man. You knew they were there.
Yeah, a lot of times when we're scouting or say scouting, I try to make a mark right where the geese are sitting. Mm-hmm. But once you go in the morning, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for tracks or goose shit. Yeah. But in the snow, I mean, there's so many geese sitting out in these snow fields that you could just see where they melted the snow. You could just see like the corn stalks. Then the rest of the field would be just nothing but snow. So it's kind of easy to point out where they're exactly sitting the evening before.
So I will say Colton obviously knows what he's doing up north, and he also does some guiding down here on the coast, and we're going to get into that here in a little bit. But I do want to bring up a funny story from the trip that we went on. So how everything was working, this was my first time. You go out there, you scout, and then you got to get permission to hunt these properties, right? So Matthew did a lot of asking, knocking on doors, asking permission. I think Colton, also did a lot of that. And I was riding with Colton one day, and we found this good little feed, and he was like, "Man, let's try to get permission on that property." I was like, "Okay, it's my time. I'm going to go up there and ask because I haven't asked permission yet. I just it wasn't that I didn't want to; it just I haven't had the opportunity to do it. So I'm gonna go knock on the door and be polite, and I'm gonna get permission." Dude, I get out of the truck. This fucking dog. Colton knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yep. Everyone else, they invited him in for, watch TV. Oh, yeah, come hunt, Well, no, the property owner's house that I went to, this fucking guard dog just attacks me, man. And I just look back at the truck, and they're laughing their asses off, but I'm fearing for my life. Dude, I think this dog's about to take my damn leg off. I'm not exaggerating either. This dog was, as soon as I jumped out of the truck, he started showing his teeth. I was like, he'll be okay. Nah, dude. He tried to latch onto my leg, dude, when I was going up the porch. I had like 3 or 4 layers on, so I didn't feel it. But I'm pretty sure he latched onto my leg for a split second, and then I finally calmed him down.
Yeah,
that was some shit.
What was you saying? Come here, Poochie.
I was trying to calm him down, man. He's a good guard dog, I guess. Shit.
Oh, man, me and Cole, we was rolling in a truck, and I've never had an experience with a dog like that. I'm waiting for the time. I'm going to pull up somebody's house. There's going to be a dog, and it's going to bite me. Sure enough, Mitch picked the house, and he damn near bit him.
And it was one of one. He's 100% being attacked by a dog every time he's asked for
and the owners of the property were not home. We could not get a hold of them, so it was for nothing. So, but
and we tried to get a hold of them guys for quite a while.
Oh yeah, I went to the same house. I think earlier that day or maybe the day before, and dog didn't bother me. This is just not like
something against me.
Not like your scent that day.
Yeah,
had
them people they just must go somewhere else in the wintertime or something.
Probably on the roost.
But we never did get a hold of them, which, I mean, really don't matter if we did or not. Them birds left. They left quick. Yeah. And I don't know if they ever came back to that alfalfa field.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I didn't realize like how much goes into when you travel, different places to hunt. There's a lot of time, and I feel like in order to be successful, there's a lot of time that goes into scouting alone. I mean, it's an all-day affair. I mean, even if you find your field, you make your hunt, you're scouting the rest of the day to have a good hunt the next day.
Yeah, scouting is definitely key. I mean, if you don't scout, you're not gonna kill birds. There's nothing else to it.
Yeah.
But scouting ain't the only thing to it. Scouting's half of it, but the other half is actually know how to talk to them farmers and stuff, and ask them how to get permission and stuff. Because I mean, you may find 5,000-6,000 birds, but I mean, you got to get the permission to hunt them.
Yeah.
And, but scouting is key. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You got to know where they roost. That's the whole deal. You got to know where the birds are roosting, and you got to know where they're going to feed.
Yeah, man. It was like for me. I mean, we were talking about it while we were up there, and how you're real big on scouting. You hit the road all day, until you're comfortable with at least tomorrow's hunt, and then a fallback plan if something happens.
Yeah.
And it's when you're out there on the road and you're hunting and scouting every single day, every waking moment, right? You're so far from home. You've put in so much time and effort, to make this hunt happen. So you're not going to waste any time. You want to be ensuring your success for as much of the trip as you possibly can. And so, in the moment, like you're dog tired, you're running the roads, you're scouting, you're talking to people. But that adds so much to the experience. Like looking back at this and talking about it with you guys, that one farmer, I went into his house and he invited me in. We're sitting there watching the football game and just sitting there talking, that was so cool, man. And I think just the takeaways from all that is just as fun as, sitting here talking about it as it was to experience, man. It was super cool.
Yeah, which hunting these birds are fun, don't get me wrong, but I really like, honestly, scouting, getting permission. That's almost makes my hunt to me.
Yeah.
Finding the birds, working for them, getting the permission, setting up. I mean, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
but
a lot
I was surprised, man. I mean, we had a pretty good body count at the end of the trip, and we did not bring back one band.
Not a single one.
I was expecting at least one.
You know, it's crazy. I've been doing this, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, and I've actually never killed a band up north, but I've been on a hunt where we killed one band. This was 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, North Dakota. It was when we went in October. But we had quite a few guys hunting with us. We killed a banded mallard drake. But out of all these Canada geese, you'd think we'd kill one. But
at least one. Shit.
I know. I've actually never killed a Canada goose band.
It's the craziest thing. I see all these guys that are much, much farther north, and I think a lot of the bands that get killed too. And I'm not 100% certain on this. This is just me speculating. But, if you track birds and you see birds in the area and you're able to glass them and see if it's not covered in snow, obviously we couldn't see much of the birds, the legs of them at least. But, if you find a group of birds, oftentimes if they're banded together, they'll flock together and they'll keep flying together. So if you have a group come in and you shoot 5 of them, and it happens to be a group that was banded together, you may have 4 bands out of that group.
Yeah, a lot of the times I see people killing bands. It's multiple. Them birds get banded together, and I guess they just stay together.
But what I was getting at that surprised me was that I've seen more bands killed in our area than I've killed on the road.
Yeah, and a guy that guides with us here in Winnie, they killed a pintail drake band.
That's a trophy right there.
A couple days ago, I think Jake Jordan. And his band is Saskatchewan, Canada.
No shit.
All the way down to Winnie.
That is a badass trophy right there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
You don't see that many banded pintail. Definitely around here.
No.
I've only ever seen one, and I was lucky enough to have been on the hunt. And this is another thing that seems to be a trend. I don't know if you guys have had this happen as much to you as I have, but it's always the guys that don't hunt very often, and maybe even the new guys that get the band. And I've been hunting with so many times on. I say this like it's been, a bunch of times. Really, in reality, 10 times or less, right? Because bands don't get shot that often. But with guys that have been hunting their whole lives since we were kids, and then we'll bring somebody hunting, and they'll shoot a band.
Yeah.
And we're like, son of a bitch, I've shot, this is so many birds and never shot a band. And this guy, first hunt or second hunt or whatever, maybe he's been hunting for a long time, but he only hunts once or twice a year, and he comes out and shoots a band. But we had a guy that hunted with us in College Station. We brought him out. It's his first ever hunt. He shot a banded pintail drake.
That's how it goes a lot of the time. I shot my first band. I was in high school, and it was just a hunt one weekend. I wasn't hunting that much, and I shot a banded green wing teal drake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've personally actually only shot, which I've been hunting all my life. I've hunted ever since I was probably 6, 7 years old, just going on my dad's stuff, wood duck holes, and working my head. And I've hunted every year of my life. And I've actually only killed one band. It was a wood duck drake out of whole days out of Texas. Yeah. No telling how many birds I killed over the years.
A bunch.
I just unlucky. Just don't kill no bands.
The crazy thing about it too is that if you like look at the total number of bands, like if you're like me, I hunt with the same guy. I've hunted with the same guys my whole life. I don't go and hunt with different people throughout the season. It's me and my brother and, probably five or less guys, throughout the entire season, unless somebody invites me along. But I mean, between all of us, the entire group that we hunt with, so few bands have been killed, even traveling the roads,
Yeah.
It's wild, man. It's definitely like that. Some of these guys, man, they're like, oh, we killed a band, dude. When we kill a band, it's like you'd have thought we won the Super Bowl,
dude.
You know what I mean?
I've only seen, a handful shot down here. Anyway, I got to see Matt shoot his first one out here in Anahuac Marsh, and that was pretty badass. And me and Tanner, for some reason, dude, when I hunt with Tanner, at least once a season, we both shoot at the same bird, and he's fucking banded. And we flipped for one year. Of course, he won, got that one. And then last season, I just started getting into filming hunts and shit, trying to record for our brand. And there was this duck, dude, and he was committed. I was like, oh, yeah, man, I'm going to get this one on film. Of course, it was a model duck, and they never fucking decoy, right?
Never.
This duck was like probably 5 foot above the water, just slowly, wings locked all the way across the pond, right into the spread. Tanner shoots him. He's banded. I was like, you got to be shitting me. I got a fucking camera in my hand. That's what sucks about it, because, I try to get content for us, and, I would rather shoot with my shotgun than my camera, but a lot of the times, I'm trying to record a bunch of our stuff too. So
yeah, and y'all got some really good stuff up north. You got a lot of pictures, a lot of videos. You got some good quality stuff.
It's so hard already to put the shotgun down, but on a trip like that, when you go, and for me, it's my first time to hit the road that far north, especially first time ever hunting honkers. That for me, I was like, okay, like. I'm prioritizing the hunt on this one. Like, we're going to get some good stuff, and I could have gotten even so much more, but I was like, man, this is a first for me. This may never happen again. Now, obviously, ideally, I will be going back, but you never know, man. I die tomorrow, right? So I'm going to have this experience.
Yep.
And
my goal was the first couple hunts, I wanted to not even worry about filming shit. I wanted to experience everything to the max, and I did. It was definitely an awesome experience. But then, you see all these birds falling in the spread. I'm like, fuck, this will make some badass footage. So, a lot of the time I was putting down the gun and videoing those birds falling in, and I got some really badass footage out of it, and it was freaking cool.
They were landing close too. I mean, there was a lot of birds just walking around in decoys. What I call cherry birds, just let a single or two land while you got a big group working. They're just walking around decoys, just dumb, just sitting there eating grass and stuff. Like, it's unreal. But and I ain't gonna lie, this is probably one of the best trips I've ever been on, and I ain't gonna lie to nobody. And I've been doing this for a while, and I've seen a lot of the country, but the birds were just, there were so many birds there, and I think it had a lot to do with the snow. I really do, but that's definitely the best trip I've ever been on personally. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I'm spoiled now. It was my first
y'all
traveling
definitely
trip.
got spoiled. There's no doubt.
But I mean, I know what to expect now, and I feel like I've learned a lot just from going with you that one trip, dude. Like, now we've actually bought our own trailer, and I want to start doing these trips as much as possible. I mean, going up north is just a whole nother experience, and I just, like you were talking about earlier, I don't like fighting the fucking people down here.
Yeah, that's one reason I started going north.
And I love our coastal marsh. We have several great wildlife refuges to hunt. We hold quite a few birds. It's great hunting down here, but, it's becoming more popular just like everywhere else, and everybody wants to fucking shoot ducks now, which is great, as long as they're doing it legally and respecting other hunters. But it's just it's kind of a pain in the ass to hunt down here now.
Yeah, it's just getting out of hand now down here. And that's what's crazy. Like up there, we didn't see any hunters besides mule deer hunters or pheasant hunters. We didn't run into any goose hunters there. We had the whole place to ourselves. Which North Dakota is a little different, which depends on what time of the year you go. October's popular. There's people on every corner in North Dakota, but there's so much farmland up there, and every pond, every corner's got ducks in it. So it's not as hard up there. But up there in Canada we was at, there's just the part of Canada we was at, there was just nobody up there.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun.
Right. But I did truly enjoy that experience. But man, let's hop into another subject. So recently you used to, I mean, the past couple of years you haven't really hunted down here just because of all the people, and recently you started doing a little guiding yourself, huh?
Yep. I haven't really hunted down here, and ever since I started going north, the hunt was so good up there. I quit hunting down here really, and here recently, Spencer Kniff got me back into hunting down here, and now I'm guiding for Drake Plantation there in Winnie for Brian Fisher.
You and Spencer kind of connected because I'm assuming because you brought him up north, correct?
Yes, yeah. Me and Spencer, he went to North Dakota with me this year. We had a blast, and when we got back, he actually called me while I was out on the lake fishing back in I think this was December. He called me. He said, "Hey," he's like, "Brian needs some help. If you want to come get into the guide." And he's like, "I need you to be here in the morning." It's okay. So I went and guided my first group I've ever guided in my life.
How was that experience?
It's different. I mean, you're taking a lot of people that go once, maybe twice a year. A lot of people don't even know how to hunt, honestly. Mm-hmm. But it's a little different. You just got to talk to guys, make sure they're doing the gun safety. Don't shoot my dog.
Listen to what you say. You were calling the shot. Don't
jump the shot. This and that. You just got to talk to them before the hunt. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Which I've only done it for 3 or 4 weeks now. But I'm going to continue to do it next season and continue
100%.
So
I definitely.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a different experience. That's for sure.
No doubt.
That was something that growing up, man. That was like growing up. They're like, "Oh, what do you want to do when you grow up?" That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a guide. I was like, man, I want to take people hunting. My mom was like, "You found out what you're good at, Matthew. You're pretty good at hunting. You go out there and you always get the birds." I was like, damn right, I'm going to go guide. Yeah. And I want to do it so bad, man. I still even want to guide, but I just, man, we got a lot of irons in the fire.
There's a lot of irons in the fire. And another thing is the outfitters that are already established in our area have all the good land is already accounted for. It's already leased up. So, I mean, if you're wanting to even start your own, or you could go guide for someone else, but if you want to start your own guide service here in Southeast Texas, there's not a lot of land to pick from if you're looking to lease property to do that.
Yeah, but I think I am going to at some point. That's something that's kind of a goal of mine that I've had. I want to guide groups at some
least
point.
For a season, just try it out.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it for me is like I understand the risk of you taking people that aren't hunting very often. Mm-hmm. But I love taking people, man. I love interacting with new people. I love talking to people and seeing others have new experiences. So that's something I would love to do, and I think I'm going to do it at some point.
No doubt about it.
Took a quick break just then. We're going to jump back into it and talk a little bit about some more goose hunting. During our break, me and Colton were talking about some of the effects of what we've been seeing over the past year of a new, they call it the avian flu. I'm sure most of you guys have heard about it by now.
Seen videos of it anyway. I've been seeing a couple, come across my feed on like Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something that, him and I talked about actually when we were on the road, and I'd asked him, I kept seeing these videos and mainly in snow geese. And I asked Colton, I was like, man, you've been hunting Canadas for quite a while. Been doing it a lot this year already. Have you seen any of this in Canada geese? He said, no, man, I've only mainly seen it in snows, and then it was like, after that, I started seeing a lot of videos of it in Canadas, and I started sending them to him. And it's just the wildest thing, man. And I mean, I can imagine that, just like we were just talking about, man, the way that geese flock and fly in such large numbers, man, it's probably running through them pretty good.
Yeah, snow geese travel by the thousands. I mean, you'll see small groups of snow geese, but a lot of times, like when they're roosting, definitely like up north, it ain't nothing to see 20, 30,000 snow geese at one time. So if you have some sick geese in a big group like that, I mean, it ain't nothing to kill so many geese like that.
Yeah, I feel like they'd spread it pretty easily, and I don't know how it spread, but I feel like them traveling so tight and in the numbers they travel that they're spreading the shit out of it. Now, I don't even really know exactly what it is. I've seen videos of these birds just it look like they're out of their mind. They landed in some place they'd never land usually, and they're just messed up. I mean,
yeah, I seen it firsthand this year. The first time I've actually seen it firsthand this year was in December. I went up and hunted with my buddy Colton Townsend and Calvin for they guy for Cadillac Creek, and I went and hunted some lizards and snows with them. And that's the first time I've ever seen a Canada geese get it. We hunted a little loaf pond. The birds are coming back, still in that water about midday. So they set up like 9:30, 10 o'clock. We was waiting for the lizards to come back. And while we sitting up, you could look on the other side of the pond where these birds were roosting that morning. There was like 10 or 15 birds. You could just tell they're just limping, and you could just tell they were sick. They had the avian flu is what they had, which we got rid of them birds. But we made a hunt 2 or 3 days later. We was hunting just straight snow geese that were roosting. They were roosting in a big cattle farm. They raise feedlots. Feedlots what they call them up there.
Yeah.
There's so many cows. There's like 50,000 cows in this feedlot. But they had a big pond in the middle. That's where all these birds were roosting. And we had a bunch of birds coming. We had a single juvie. He was coming. He was doing it dirty. He's come right on in and landed. And we said, well, he's just going to be a cherry bear. We'll let him land and get the big group behind him. And next thing I know, I look. And I can see him because we're sitting under the full bodies. I could watch him. And he's just gimping, falling over. And you could just tell he was sick. Next thing you know, he's just dead. Just like that. And that's the first time I've actually seen him.
He just died right there. He decoyed and died.
He died. I mean, it's crazy how it affects some birds. And
I'm curious if I'm sure you can still eat those birds. You always see people post pictures of the rice breast. You're not supposed to eat those birds, right? So what if they have the avian flu? Can you eat those birds, or are you not supposed to eat them?
I've heard a lot of stories about you're not supposed to eat them. Then I've heard stuff where you're not supposed to let your dog grab it, this and that. I personally don't think it hurts your dog or hurts to even handle. A lot of people say don't even handle them. But I personally don't think it affects the humans like they say it does. But if I seen a sick bird like that, I probably personally wouldn't eat it myself.
No,
I would just steer clear, play it safe. I mean, it's such a small. I mean, as of right now, your birds that are coming in and decoying in big groups that are capable of doing that, I would say they more than likely don't have it if they're up and out and moving. But it was interesting what you said earlier about those birds. From where the geese were roosting, all the geese get off the roost, they go out to feed, and then in the loaf, and you still have those sick birds that kind of just stay down. They're real jacked up. Maybe they can't get up and move, and they're just kind of flopping around over there out of their minds. But that to me, would be a good indication that, like, I'm sure we'll see some research after this year. Now that it's something that's got eyes on it. It's something that we're aware of, and we were talking in the break about how there's going to be some changes potentially made because of it. But being able to say, all right, this is where the birds are roosting. They get up off the roost. Okay, these birds that are all jacked up laying around, they've got the flu. Let's go get them. And then now we have a sample that we can collect data from, and try to figure out what this is, and how it plays a part within the snow geese population. And so I'm interested to see how that plays out. Yeah,
the avian flu, it's been here for a while, but we've never just seen the kill population or the kill numbers that we're seeing now. I mean, we've never seen hundreds of thousands of birds just dead because of this disease and stuff.
Now it's affecting geese and ducks, correct?
Yes, it's affecting everything, and it really. And I think it comes from like chickens. I think it's a poultry disease. I think is where it comes from. And I'm not scientific on the avian flu or nothing, but that's just stuff that I'm reading. It's getting in these chicken farms, killing all these chickens and stuff too.
Yeah, and I would imagine, this is just speculation on my part, but that's got to be something that, since it's been around for so long, it's probably evolved to a point where it's just mutating and continuing to change along with everything else and just time. And there will be a reaction to that within a population where there is an immunity built up, and then they can then come back from it. But I was telling Colton earlier, with snow geese, the way that they are, if there was some form of just mass extinction event where we have a loss of just tons and tons of snow geese, and we say, hey, whoa, we can't hunt these birds anymore because there's not a whole pile of them like there was last year. We lost, 1 million birds or whatever, and it may not have to be anything crazy like that, but I can imagine that the snow geese would probably bounce back from that pretty quickly. Just seeing them in the way that I've seen them over the years, the big flocks, thousands of birds grouping together, and I'm not sure the gestation period and within geese how quickly they can reproduce, but that would be a good question for you. I know you're a bird raising fellow over there.
I do raise quite a bit of migratory waterfowl. I got pintail, widgeon, blue wings, mallards, Canada geese, gadwall. I raise it all. I got a permit through the state. That way I can raise and sell migratory waterfowl.
So you have to have a permit just to be able to sell them or be able to raise them?
Yeah, you had to have a permit to sell them. Anybody in the United States can own them. You just, like when I sell them, I got a piece of paper I got to fill out with your information, my information. It basically tells you that you can own these birds legally. You just can't sell them without getting a permit from the state.
I got you.
And these birds, I mean, just like any other bird, they only roost. They only nest in the springtime. Usually, probably March. March is when my wood ducks start laying, and they'll lay throughout May, July. And then that's it. They may lay. My wood ducks, they lay a couple clutches a year, but like my pintail and stuff, they're only going to lay one clutch a year. And that's one reason I think the pintail number is so low is just, they just don't nest. They don't lay the amount of eggs like some of these other birds do. Like my pintail, they don't lay but 4 to 6 eggs. Mine do. And I'm sure more lay more eggs, but like my mallards, it ain't nothing for them to lay 12, 15 eggs in a nest. Yeah. And I think that's why the pintail limits are so low, like they are. And I've heard rumors we're not even going to get to kill pintail like next year and stuff, but I don't know how true it is.
And I was saying about that, I mean, if you're going to make the limit one bird, why even, leave it like that? Just let them rest for a year or two and then let us kill more than one, in my opinion.
Yeah. I would, I don't really know where to weigh in on that. You want to see the population bounce back, for guys that are passionate hunters like us. We want to go out there and, man, pintail is up there on the list. Those are beautiful birds. That to me is a trophy that is, it's fighting my greenheads in my mind. I go back and forth between the two. Pintails have always been one of my favorites.
Beautiful bird.
Something you want to, it's the goal, the trophy, right? For the sportsman aspect of it. We're not having to, we're blessed in this day and age to not have to go out there and do it so we can eat tonight. A lot of that is the sport of it. And, man, just going out there and getting a pintail to come down from the ozone layer a mile high, watching those birds work is incredible, man. I love shooting pintail.
Yeah, we're lucky down here in Southeast Texas where we are. We actually get a lot of pintail down here. There's a lot of places in the United States, they don't get that many pintail.
There's a bunch of them here, man.
Oh, there's so we got some leased land in Winnie, and there's so many pintail on it right now, it's ridiculous. But there's really not a whole lot of other birds there. I mean, we're not even seeing the spoonbills like we normally see.
Yeah.
But it's just thousands and thousands of just pintail.
Man, it's so crazy because you feel like being this far south that we're like over the years, you're like, oh man, the guys that are up north of us are getting all the opportunities on all these good birds, and we're just getting the leftovers. Down here we're scraping and scrambling around trying to hunt. And I do think 100% that it is much more difficult to hunt birds down here, but we do have opportunities that some people up farther north don't have.
I feel like up north they definitely get more geese, definitely get the mallards. But we have a pretty diverse population of species down here, man. I mean, you go out in the marsh and go on a hunt, and you really don't know what to expect. I mean, teal, you're going to probably shoot teal, but, I mean, we have pretty much everything. And if you shoot a greenhead, we don't get a lot of mallards down here, so that's kind of rare. But, I mean, we have a pretty diverse population of birds down here.
Yeah. If you kill a mallard down here, you're pretty much the talk of the town, really. Yeah. Up north, their mallards are kind of like our teal down here, I feel like. There's just so many mallards up there. We just over the years, there's so much crop fields up there. I just don't think the birds come down here like they used to.
I wouldn't if I were them either. I mean, just going on that trip, seeing all that food for them up there.
Yeah.
Why the hell would you come down here when you can sit up there and eat?
Yeah, I have no idea why they birds. Them birds travel a long ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, coming out of Canada, that's what 2,000 miles out of Canada all the way down here. That's a long ways.
Beautiful country, Duluth. Beautiful country, Duluth.
Beautiful country, Duluth.
Yeah, man. I was, just kind of thinking about that the other day, and I think we discussed it a little bit on a previous episode. But there's always the argument of birds migrating and short stopping the migration before the birds make it completely south. And a lot of sour guys down here. All these Ducks Unlimited and all these outfitters coming up to the north of us, and heated ponds, and there's so much more in the waterfowl industry now, that there's a lot more hunters, a lot more outfitters. But tell you the truth, man, going up there and seeing that, it's just the amount of farmland up there, the amount of food availability for the birds up there. It's like Mitchell said, you're already set, and if the cold doesn't push you down, you can sit there and eat on a field for as long as you want. Why leave?
Yep. As long as they got open water and a food source, there's no reason for them birds to migrate. Besides, I mean, the cold temps make them migrate, of course, but if you got an open pond and a cornfield next to it, I mean, why would the birds want to come down here? Why would they want to come sit in this old nasty Southeast Texas marsh down here?
Yeah, and even the birds, like you said about the feedlots, like those birds have protection. Yep. You can't go and hunt a feedlot. And I mean, if you go out there and look at them, they will be slap full. We were so close. I was looking at a spot in northern Oklahoma, and it was dead set. There's mallards poured into it by the hundreds, and but it was in too close of a proximity to a feedlot. I mean, the birds didn't have to go nowhere. They were just sitting there and eating, and they were protected. They had that safety. They had that open water, and they had that food source. They didn't have to go nowhere, and so they didn't plan on it.
What's crazy is we've set up and watched some of them feedlots sometimes, just watching the roosts and stuff. And a lot of them ducks and geese, they'll actually feed out of the cow's feed. Yeah. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Yeah. And ducks will get out of the pond, fly up, and they'll fly through the cows and land in their feed trough, eat their feed. I've never seen anything. I don't know how they learn to do stuff like that. I guess just over the years.
Hey, them birds are smarter than you think.
Hey, man. Like we say when we're working them in, all it takes is one. One of them's got to do it. The rest will follow, That might have been what it was. That old lone duck was like, I'm going to go try these cattle. Yep. I'm going to see if these things
just seeing them. I mean, if we didn't have our hide on point up there when we were hunting up north, they knew it, man. They saw us and they knew something wasn't right, and they'd go land on the opposite side of the field. Them birds, they know, man. They're evolving, if you ask me. They're getting smarter every year.
Yeah.
And they know what's right and what's wrong. I mean, a lot of the times we trick them, and that's the point of hunting. It's fun, You trick a wild bird into thinking your spread's real and they're going to come land, but them fuckers are smart, man.
Yeah, and hunting up north, I mean, it's not easy. Don't get me wrong. It's a grind. It is. But definitely when you're hunting like down here in Southeast Texas, them birds have been shot for 2,000 miles all the way down here. They know what decoy spreads look like. They know what mojos look like. It's hard to hunt them birds down here. It really is. And when you go and shoot a 3 or 4 man down here, you actually really done something around here.
Oh, yeah. It's something to be proud of, for sure. It's crazy to me that, the little subtlety things that they pick up on, we watched them, and we had one hunt where I think we killed 15 birds, but that was only half of our limit, and we're trying to get the limit, man. It's just so tough, and it's, the hide's good. It's just we don't have the brush really, and there's very, I don't think we were completely invisible, obviously, or else we would have worked more birds in, but it was such subtle things, that were different, that they were just easily picking up on. And it just blows my mind how, for them, it's fight or flight, right? They pick up on one little thing that they don't like, and that blows it.
I will say this, though. There's a bunch of smart ones, but there's also a bunch of dumb ones. I'll tell y'all a story right now. We were up there, and Colton and a couple of the other guys that were with us were going and parking the trucks and, getting everything situated at the road, and me and Matt were left there at the blinds. We had just set up, and Matt was like, man, I think I'm going to go take me a shit in the ditch. And I was like, okay, man, yeah, go ahead. And old Matthew's over there shitting in the ditch, and I see this big old honker, he's giving us a look. And I said, Matt, I don't have a call on me. Can you call him? So Matt's in the process of taking a shit, and he starts calling by mouth. And he's actually pretty talented at it. Starts calling at him by mouth, and I was like, shit, where's my gun? He was like, just shoot mine. It was leaned up against his blind. He called that bird right into the spread, and I was just squatting behind the layouts, and I stood up and dropped him.
I had my pants around my ankles, and keep in mind, man, I'm standing in about 6 inches of snow, squatted over, just having. Man, that trip, man, my body was not on the right schedule.
Oh, I think I shit in a toilet maybe twice the whole trip.
I
it was
counted
always
mine,
in a
and it was
or
too.
A sugar beet field, always.
Yeah, my body was just not in sync with the time that I was inside. Okay, when I was inside, my body didn't want to do it, and as soon as I went outside, my brain was like, all right, Matt, it's time to take a shit. And so I found myself in that field, just squatted over, and sure enough, here come the birds. And it was always, you go to park the truck. I think we averaged every day at least 1 or 2 birds when the truck was getting parked and when half of everybody was out of the blind. There's usually only like 1 or 2 of us back at the layouts, and while y'all were parking the trucks, there was 1 or 2 birds that did it every single day.
I'm pretty sure every day y'all shot at least 1 or 2 birds while we were going to pick
and y'all come back. Y'all get them? We're like, shit, yeah, we got them.
I can sure y'all shooting boom, boom, boom in the distance, and I could see a couple fall.
Yeah, man, that was super cool. But yeah, I was over there squatting in the ditch, man, just giving them the old
Yeah, and
Them
it
Canada
worked too.
geese, they're definitely a different bird to hunt. They're not the smartest bird. They're not just the dumbest bird either. But it's some of the easiest birds to hunt, I think, in my opinion. Like snow geese. Snow geese are tough to hunt. I ain't gonna lie to nobody. That's probably the toughest bird there is to hunt in pattern.
You think so?
100%. Snow geese are hard to hunt. I'm good.
I'll tell you what I would like to do in the upcoming years is go on a speckled belly smash. I would like to go find some specks, man. I haven't ever really gone and really hammered on the specks. I've shot
Arkansas.
snows. I've shot Canadas. Now I'm shooting some specks.
Yeah, Arkansas is probably going to be your best bet on the specks. They get a bunch of speckled bellies in Arkansas. But I say that, 2 years ago in North Dakota, we went in October. That's almost all we shot. Every single day was a 5 or 6 man speckled bellies. Man, there were so many speckled bellies in there. And that's kind of what I planned my trip on this year to shoot with speckled bellies because that's all we saw. Which we shot a bunch of mallards and stuff too, but this year we just didn't hardly see no specks. Which we didn't see the snows like we usually see up there either. We just seen a bunch of mallards and a bunch of Canadas.
I feel like Arkansas would be a shit show.
Now, I'm curious to talk to somebody else who's hunted specks outside of our area because I was in Kansas a couple years back and we saw some speckled bellies and, of course, we're out there duck hunting, don't have any goose decoys out. We're hunting open water. And, if you've ever hunted geese, ideally you don't want to be hunting out on open water like you would hunting ducks. But we see some speckled bellies and, it's just specks. They're mile high. And I'm like, we're not even going to bother with them. Well, I was hunting with Connor and he had that red bone on him and he started calling at them. And it was like they flipped a switch. They started looking for us. Didn't have a goose decoy out. We're hunting over a duck spread in the water, in a freshwater marsh. And they started working us, man. We worked them down into about 15 yards over our head. And the whole time they got close enough, you can look and see their heads. And every time you give them a little something on that call, they turn and start looking for us. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen because of it was so different than the way that they work down here. It just felt so much easier.
Yeah.
And I was curious to see, how did you feel about that hunting them outside of Southeast Texas? I mean, you think they worked a lot better? Or?
Oh, they do, and they're one of the. I think they're one of the talkativest birds there is, besides Canada geese. I mean, you get on a Canada call and turn to Canada, but a speckled belly, he could be out there a mile, and you hit him one time with that speckled belly call, and he'll come right to you. I definitely think they're one of the talkiest birds there is.
I don't know why it's so fucking hard to decoy geese in Southeast Texas, but it is. It is hard to decoy a goose down here.
They are. And,
especially hunting over water, out in the marsh. I cannot say I've ever decoyed a goose out in the marsh. We've always shot them in passing when we've shot them.
Yeah, which here guiding recently down in Winnie, I've noticed the speckled bellies are either going to come or they're not. Sometimes you'll get on a call and they'll come right in, nothing to it, like cake. Then again, you hit a call and they'll flare off of it. Like, it's ridiculous. And these birds down here are smart. Like I said, they've been shot all over the country. But
yeah.
And surprisingly, we've actually shot a lot of snow geese down here recently and actually decoyed really good. And I'm very surprised for hunting down here.
Yeah.
But them speckled bellies, they're either hit or miss. You're either going to call them, they're going to come right in, or you're going to call them, they're going to flare. It ain't just what it is.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on that call, man. I know this is the last weekend. I'm just waiting on old CC to give me a shout and say, hey, man, let's go on a hunt out there on that private property I'm guiding on.
Oh, we'll get on them. That's for sure. We'll definitely get on them.
No
Damn
doubt.
shame you got to work this weekend.
But unfortunately, I am working days this weekend. So my duck season's pretty much over.
Yeah, and it's a shame, but I think I'm going to try to make one more Sunday. I think if I can do it, I'm going to.
I think it's going to be good this weekend. We're supposed to have some rain Sunday, I believe.
Yeah.
It's a 90% chance of rain. And tomorrow, I think tomorrow's going to be a good day. We got like a 15-mile-an-hour south-southeast wind. I think it could be pretty good tomorrow, too.
Yeah. So one other thing, getting back onto the topic of you pen raising birds, man. I was curious to ask you this the other day. I came over to your house and, we're kind of getting some stuff that we had left with one another and off of that last trip that we made. And, I was like, man, I want to see your birds. I want to see your ducks. And you're like, yeah, come on, I got to go feed them. Man, you seem to be really passionate about, the birds that you have that you've hatched off and, that you're raising. And so I just was curious, as a waterfowl hunter, you go out and you hunt ducks and you also raise them. How does that translate? How does that interest, how do you maintain that interest, I guess, is just, you've got ducks at home. You see ducks every day. It's nothing new to you. It's not exotic in a way that, I don't have ducks in my yard. I only see ducks when I'm out hunting. And so it was just interesting to me to to kind of see how that all meshed together, being that you do that and you're also a very avid hunter.
Yeah, I catch myself out there times. I sit out there for 30 minutes to an hour sometimes just watching these birds, just see how they do. Like I got 20-something mallards, and I got, of course, all these other ducks, and I kind of see how the mallards talk to each other. I like to see how they're quacking each other, and I kind of take that to the field with me. I kind of see how these ducks are talking to each other, and that's kind of how I try to talk to wild ducks. Like I've tried to figure out how these pintail are talking to one another. The widgeon are always just whistling up a storm, and these mallards, a lot of times people just hammer on these mallard calls. I've noticed like my mallards at the house, they really don't quack that much. They just wah, 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 instead of just people just hammering on like a hail call. And I take that to the field with me a lot of times. Try to help me out.
I feel like that's a pretty smart thing to do, honestly. Watch them. You know, if I had ducks like you did, like you do, I would sit and just watch like you do and study them almost.
Yep.
And I mean, that's a smart way to go about it. You can listen to them call, how they actually sound.
Yep.
And I would love to get a couple birds. I'd like to dig a pond in the future, raise a couple birds. I don't know if I'd get into selling them or anything like that, but just have a few, gadwall, mallards, pintail. That'd be badass.
Yeah, and there's a pretty big market out there for them actually, which I sell a lot of them on Facebook and stuff. But most of the people that are buying them, they're buying them they're city people. They just put them in their house, or not in their house, but they build a little aviary in their backyard and keep ducks and stuff. But a lot of these ducks are going for $125 a pair, which that's what I sell most of my birds for. Besides wood ducks are $80 a pair, but there's actually a really big market out there for them, surprisingly.
That's pretty cool, and that's definitely a cool little side gig for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Make a little extra cash, sell hatchlings.
Yeah.
Now, what age do you sell them? You hatch them and then.
Yeah, well, it depends. Sometimes I'll hatch them and keep them till I can tell males from females, and then sell them, or drakes and hens and sell them. But a lot of these people that I'm selling them to, they want them as chicks as soon as they hatch. That way they can kind of grow up with them. That way they're used to them. Kind of like my birds. I started all my birds when they're young, so they're kind of used to me now. Like my geese, I think my Canada geese are 2 years old now, and I hatched them as soon as they come out of an egg. I had them, and back when they were, I don't know, 3 or 4 months old, I always kept them in a pen. I wondering what they'd do if I ever let them out. So, which they couldn't fly. They're still a little bitty. And I went out there and opened their pen. And they just follow me. They follow me like I was their mother. I'd take them all around the pasture, and they'd go get in the pond. I'd come back and tell them get in the pen. They'd go get in their pen. And still, even to this day, when they're fully grown and they could fly, they could leave today if they wanted to.
So that you don't clip them or nothing? Or?
Nope, I don't clip any. Well, I got my gadwall drake. I think that's the only one clip. But all my migratory birds are in a enclosed pen. By my permit, I have to keep them in a pen. But my mallards and my Canada geese, they could fly off any day they want to, but they never do. And they're all full wing. And they'll be in the back of the pasture. And I don't know how, but they can recognize my truck. As soon as I pull in from work, here they come. They'll fly and land right by my truck. Like it's unreal.
Dude, that was crazy. I pulled up to his house, and those Canada geese were just all over the place. And I went to back out. I was like, man, are they going to get out of the way? He's like, yeah, they're like dogs. They just hang out. I said, what do they do? He said, oh, they just stand around, they sleep, they eat, they shit. That's about it, and they just hang out.
And what's crazy is, I think it was last year, the first time they ever left, there's one time they left. We had a big windstorm, and they left. Like, every time I go outside, I always see my geese. Well, I didn't see them. I kind of got worried, so I went to Grandpa's pasture. I went to my uncle's pasture. I couldn't find them. I said, well, they went somewhere. So I picked which way the wind was flying or going that day. I said, you know what? I said, I'm just going to make a loop. I said, I got to find my geese. And because they're almost like kids to me now. And so I went down Brown Road, and I'd got on Google Maps, and I found 3 ponds. There was a pond to the south, north, and east. And so I went, checked one pond. Damn, they ain't there. All right. So I went to the other pond. Damn, they ain't there. I said, all right, well, there's one more pond. I'm going to go check it. Sure as shit. I pull up, and there they are. They're sitting like 80 yards off the county road. And, of course, it's fenced in private property. I didn't know what to do. And the guy he had a gate, and his house was way off in the distance. I was like, well, I can't just walk up this guy's house. And so I just hollered at him, hey, y'all come on. And sure as shit, if not, all 5 of them Canada geese walked to my truck. I picked them up, put them in my back seat, and I took them to the house. Sure did.
That's pretty cool, man.
And that's the only time they ever left.
That's pretty cool stuff. But definitely a lot of good times had with you, man, up north. All of us really enjoyed the trip. And hopefully we'll be making several more in the future.
Yep.
We have one.
again.
Do have another one planned for November. and hopefully we kill them again.
I think it'd be pretty good. Which I've been to this area. I've been up here I've hunted 2 years, so this will be my 3rd year in that area, and it's been pretty good to me. We've shot a lot of pheasants too, and that's one deal we do while we're not scouting, go around and shoot pheasants.
Oh, that alone there was a treat in itself,
cool,
shooting pheasant. But running low on time. Colton, definitely appreciate you hopping on today.
Appreciate y'all.
Looking forward to our future hunts. Hopefully, we'll get to make some local ones as well.
Oh yeah,
Matthew, a pleasure as always.
Oh yeah, I like getting to. I haven't jumped on a podcast with you in a hot minute.
It's been a hot minute, but y'all be sure to check us out on all platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and appreciate it. We'll see y'all next time.